Well, hello, my fellow misfits. Welcome back to the cult. I'm Matt Owens, and I've got a little special treat for you today. I actually did something a little bit different, and I decided to write a poem for you that I'm going to read. So it's entitled The Matrix. Here we go. Adrenochrome, the fall of Rome, the shift of 5D, the threat of 5G, everything is an illusion. Deep state, mind control, MK Ultra, UFO, new Earth, rebirth, a solar flare. Did you prepare? Everything is an illusion. Hybrids, clones, and timeline shifts, rifts in space and time exist. Atlantis and Lemuria, mud floods and Tartaria, but are ya gonna realize that everything is an illusion? Energy grids and pyramids, shape-shifting reptilians, the Galactic Federation, angels and demons, good versus evil, UAP retrieval, Nephilim and Anunnaki, sushi rolls and teriyaki, everything is an illusion. Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Tom Hanks playing Forrest Gump, Epstein's List, Sierra Mist, well, you get the gist. Everything is an illusion. Billionaires, Bill of Rights, Bill Gates has us in his sights. The political elite, the homeless in the street, Putin's defeat, everything is an illusion. The hatred routine, the war machine, even lean cuisine, absorbing information on this tiny little screen, everything is an illusion. DARPA's controlling the weather, vegans hating on leather, stiff as a board, light as a feather. Deep State, JFK, CIA, RFK, James Earl Ray, MLK, the Hollywood elites, exploitation in the streets, left versus right, red versus blue, me versus you. Everything is an illusion. Patriot Act, censorship, power and control, fear is on patrol. The war machine, don't cause a scene. It's a power grab, leaving the taxpayers left to pick up the tab. The jab, the stab, a virus cooked up in a lab. Fauci's lies, chemtrails in the skies, microplastics piled sky high. Everything is an illusion. WEF, WTF, posting fire memes about Klaus Schwab's evil schemes. WHO telling us what we know and don't know. Big pharma, big agro, big tech, all with a boot on our neck. Do we even have a savior waiting on deck? Well, everything is an illusion. Kali Yuga, Armageddon, fallen angels, end of time, Cyber Monday sales on Amazon Prime. Fake news is all a ruse, deep fakes of Tom Cruise, transphobia, transhumanism, trans fats, chemicals in vats were essentially lab rats. Opioids becoming the opium of the masses, destroying the middle classes with fluoride in our glasses. Everything is an illusion. Divisions, religions, corrupt politicians, sex trafficking abounds in the secret tunnels underground. Gaia weeps while half the world sleeps, mindlessly scrolling and mentally weak. The watchers watch and the angels sing, for everything is an illusion. Well, what do you think of that? A little bit of poetry for you guys. I'm loving this actually. I'm loving A Cult of Misfits. I've decided to just sort of use it as a vehicle, a platform, just to sort of try new stuff, to flex my own little creativity. So anytime I get locked into any one type of format, or I it's the voice in my head. Anytime the adversary, as I call it, anytime the adversary starts telling me that I got to start doing it like this or copying those people or doing this format, or the creativity starts getting choked. And so I've decided I'm just going to start doing whatever the hell I want every week and just let it flow. I tried to make it like a Sunday service, like a Sunday sermon with a little prayer afterwards, trying to like emulate what a church service is. And I wasn't into it, guys. I wasn't into it, but I'm pushing onward and just sort of seeing what flows week to week, because that just feels more authentic and more natural. And I started getting locked into this church thing. Like, let's make it like a church. Let's make this thing like a Sunday service. And then, every week has to have a message, and it has to be all deep and all spiritual. And you know what? Sometimes I want to talk about aliens. Sometimes I want to talk about weird shit, and it doesn't necessarily fit into the format of like a Sunday service. So I'm just going with the flow. I'm trying new stuff, seeing what works, what doesn't work. And I'm glad that you guys are along on the journey with me. It's a wild ride sometimes. In the last episode, I talked about a little Hermeticism, about the alchemical process, the spiritual process, the philosopher's stone of purification, metaphorically speaking, of our souls. And it's this idea of going through the fire, right? In order to turn lead into gold, metaphorically speaking, spiritually speaking, you have to go through this process, and it often involves fire, right? Like putting the metal into the kiln and firing that bad boy up. And in the process of this fire, it burns away all of the impurities. And then there's a state of cooling where things are allowed to relax. And then there's another burning again and fire up that bad boy again, and purification, 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 and burning away all of the impurities. So that's sort of what I've been going through lately in my own personal life. That's why I talked about it last week. So check out that episode if you are interested in a little hermetic knowledge for your brain today. But I'm going through that. I recently decided to go sober. For those of you that are new to my world, hi, welcome. I've long struggled with addictions, with just all the things. I'm addicted to a lot of the things, and specifically, I about 4 months ago, I decided to stop smoking marijuana and drinking the alcohol. It was getting a little out of control. I was feeling very imbalanced. I felt that spirit. I felt like the Omega, which is what I call my higher self. The Omega was really nudging me to let those things go. In order to advance to the next level here in this little game that we call life. And so it was a very difficult challenge for me, but that was the fire, right? I know that in order to purify myself, in order to expand my consciousness, to expand my mind and my heart, in order to seek this enlightenment, this elusive enlightenment that I'm seeking while I'm here in this 3D realm, it's going to involve some fire. It's going to involve this process of purification. And so I very grudgingly decided to follow where the Omega, where my spirit was guiding me and leading me, and I decided to let go of marijuana and alcohol. And so I feel better, of course, afterwards. After the purification process, I entered a period of cooling where I was allowing everything to settle and coagulate and come back together, and everything to rejigger itself and to balance myself and to heal myself. And then the Omega let me know there was something next up to bat, and that was letting go of caffeine and letting go of sugar. And I was like, give me a break. Like, are you kidding me? I just struggled and went through the fire, letting go of weed and alcohol, and now you're asking me to go through the fire again. But that's the whole thing about this life, is it's not meant to be easy. Right? I'm sorry to tell you, but I had to come to that realization myself, that this is a place of suffering, right? And it's not all suffering. It's not all pain and suffering and misery, right? There's these periods of that, but there's also periods of joy and happiness. There are different times and different seasons in this life, right? And so the universe, God, the Omega, lovingly reminded me that this is an ongoing process, right? That it's not just a one and done situation. Like, I don't just, quit smoking, quit drinking, and like, okay, I'm good now. I can just coast until I die. There's nothing else left to do on this checklist, right? But I definitely feel like my spirit, which is the essence of who I truly am, is begging me to do these things, right? To hit these things that are on my divine checklist. And so next up to bat is caffeine and sugar. So I'm just, I always roll my eyes when I get another mission from the divine, like, okay, okay, here we go. So I'm just sort of ramping up to that. The way that I do things is I binge, right? I'm not saying it's healthy. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying it's my process. So I binge on the thing that I'm being asked to let go of, because it's like, well, I just want to get in one last hurrah before I let this fucking shit go. So that's what I'm doing. I'm binging on the coffee. I'm binging on the sugar. I'm essentially making myself sick so that I can be sick enough of it in order to finally let it go, right? Because if I just the adversary, that my mind, this little voice in my head, plays all these games with me, trying to keep me in my comfort zone, right? Trying to convince me that I need marijuana, that I need alcohol, that I need sugar, that I need coffee in the morning, that I need these substances outside of myself in order to become complete and whole, or have a semblance of a personality in the morning, or to be creative, or to sleep at night, or whatever it is that dang voice is telling me that I need. But it's all lies. It's all deception. And so I just have to remind myself that I don't need any of these substances in order to function properly and wholly and completely, right? And so it's a process, and I'm just sort of gearing up for this leap of faith where I jump off the cliff and trust the process and have faith that the divine is going to lead me somewhere that is better, right, than where I'm currently at, to let go of things that no longer serve me. And the truth is, the coffee and the sugar, they don't serve me anymore, right? It's the dopamine that's begging me to consume these things, but I don't need them, right? Because I'm honestly, I feel real jittery, and my heart starts feeling all, palpitatious. That's not a word, but it is now because I've deemed it so. My heart starts palpitating. I start getting the shakes because I can't just have one cup of coffee. I try to convince myself I can, but surely I know that I can't. That's just who I wish that it wasn't that way, but this is the thorn in my side. I have a cup of coffee, and I'm like, well, that was delicious, and I feel all jazzed up, so I'm going to have another cup, and then I have another cup, and then I have another cup, and then it turns into a pot. Now I'm consuming a pot of coffee. Same thing with sugar. Like, wow, that donut or that cookie was quite delicious, so I'm going to have another and another and another and another. And next thing you know, like, well, now I'm nauseous. That's cool. Real cool, buddy. So I wish I was one of these people that could just let these things go easily, and people who don't have issues or struggle with addiction don't understand it. They're like, well, just stop eating donuts. How about that, right? Just stop smoking weed. It's real simple. And I'm like, if only you knew. If only you knew, right? We all have our struggles. This is mine. That's the whole purpose and reason that we're here. I feel like we're not here to experience paradise, guys. I hate to tell you, the human wants to experience paradise. The human doesn't want to experience pain and suffering and depression and loneliness and all of these awful, awful things, right? The human calls them awful, but I've got to tell you a little secret that I learned recently. The spirit that resides within me, and it's not just the spirit that resides within me, the spirit that I am wants to experience all of it. Wants to experience the whole shebang, the whole spectrum of the human experience, right? The pain, the suffering, but also the joy and the happiness. And so that's what this conversation is going to be about. I want to talk about what we truly are. I want to talk about the Matrix, as I spoke about in my beautiful poem. And I also want to talk about the Watchers and the Nephilim today. So we're going to dive into some fun topics. But that's what I want to talk about is I believe that our soul is, let's talk about what our soul is, what we truly are. I believe that we are not Matt Owens, that we are not human beings. In fact, I believe that we are not humans, having this human experience, as they say, but we are spiritual beings having a human experience, right? And I think that it's often easy to forget that. we're souls that are here to experience the full human experience. And I believe that all of this is an illusion, a simulation, a dream, a game, whatever you want to call it. But I'm here to win. I'm playing a different game than most people on the planet are playing. I'm here I'm here to go all in, is essentially what I'm here to do. I'm here for enlightenment. I'm here for the enlightenment of my soul, for the expansion of my consciousness, and I'm not going to do that by staying within my comfort zone. Right? The human wants to stay in the comfort zone. Like, can't we just curl up, get all nice and cozy for a few years, and just bury our head and not face our fears, right? Why do we got to face our fears again? I don't want to do that, right? The human doesn't want to do any of that nonsense. But who I truly am is not the character Matt Owens, right? Matt Owens wants to stay in his comfort zone. Sweet little guy. Sorry, bud. I got different plans here for us. Who I truly am is here to really play this game, is to really go all in on this thing, right? And in 2020, I saw things differently. I had my awakening. I took that dang red pill, and I'm like, holy smokes, right? I can see things differently now. I'm advanced. I'm elevated. I'm enlightened. That's what the human wants to think, right? Like, yeah, right, buddy. That's my ego. But I started seeing things differently, right? And I started to come to the realization that this whole concept of the red pill is not a one and done situation where you don't just pop that red pill and now you can see things, now you're enlightened. It doesn't work that way. The way that I view things is that this red pill is more meant to be a supplement, right? It's meant to be taken on a regular basis. It's meant to be like a daily vitamin, right? And it's so easy for the Matrix to suck us back in, right? And so even though I think that I took the red pill and I'm all good to go now, I recently found myself getting sucked back into the Matrix, right? It's this idea of living in the world but not of the world. And these last several months I've really gotten sucked back into the Matrix because it's quite alluring. It's always calling me back, right? And I keep trying to escape it, but it's so alluring. In this recent political season, I found myself getting real wrapped up in politics in a way that I thought that I let go of, right? I thought that I let go of all that stuff. But I started following a lot of political commentaries on YouTube and Instagram, and these podcasts on Spotify, and I started getting pretty wrapped up in it, to be honest with you. And I would like to tell myself that, like, oh, I'm detached from this. I'm not that. I don't get worked up about it, but I was. I started letting fear start creeping back in. Like, what happens if those guys get back into power, and what happens if democracy starts to dissolve, and what happens if our rights and freedoms are taken away, and censorship and communism and fascism, and I started getting real worked up about it. And the fear started creeping in, and I started letting the fear attach itself into my life, into my mind, and I started letting that become my new reality, right? I started taking the blue pill unintentionally, so right, I started like, ooh, yeah, I do care who gets elected, and I like to tell myself that it doesn't matter who gets into office, that I'm okay either way, and it's part of God's plan, whoever gets into office. But if I'm being honest with myself and being honest with you, like, I did care who got into office. If the other person got into office, I would have been bothered a little bit by that, and I had to step back and question that, and think, like, why am I getting myself so attached to this political system? Why am I getting myself so attached to this material world, right? To this matrix? See, that's God's light shining upon me, saying everything's gonna be okay. Guys, I record these podcasts in my car. For those of you that don't know, I'm actually living out of my car. And so I try to make these all perfect and try to pretend like I'm not in my car. And, but at the end of the day, like, I'm just sitting in my car here, guys. The audio is not ideal. The lighting is not ideal. There's people getting in and out of their cars all around me. I'm in the parking lot at the library oftentimes when I record these. And it is what it is, guys. So I've learned to let it go and not judge the situation and just let it go. So lighting's not perfect today. Audio's not perfect today. I'm not perfect today. Everything is exactly as it's meant to be. So I'm getting into this mindset of taking the red pill daily, like a daily supplement, right? I have this tattoo on my arm that is pretty badass, actually, and I can't. Well, maybe I'll try to show it to you. It's kind of awkward because it's like upside down, and anyway, it's Abraham Lincoln, with a skull face and a top hat, and it says memento mori on it, which is a Latin phrase meaning "remember that you must die." Real morbid, right? Um, Initially, I put memento mori on my arm because I wanted to remind myself that you must die, that life is short, right? Life is short, live life to its fullest. But recently, it's taken on a different meaning. Memento mori has started to mean remember that you must die daily, right? Meaning remember that I must have a daily metaphorical death of the old ways, of my old beliefs, of my old cycles and patterns, and to kill those things daily because they creep back in quite easily, right? In the Bible, Jesus said, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. Let's break that down. So Jesus said that we must deny ourselves. And what that means is, for me, putting aside our own desires, our own addictions, our own beliefs, our own, the old way, essentially, in order to serve this greater purpose for our souls, right? He talks about taking up his cross daily, taking up our crosses daily, meaning that there's going to be suffering and hardship and challenges and painful experiences in our life, and that's part of the game, right? To pick up that cross and to realize that that's a part of what's going on here in this lifetime. And lastly, he says to follow me, and that's essential. That's essential in letting the Omega, or letting your higher self or God or spirit or the divine lead you and guide you every single day, right? Because I found that anytime that Matt Owens, the human, God bless him, anytime he tries to take over, it's usually a hot mess. Things usually end up a hot mess when Matt Owens tries to take over. And so what I try to do is just let spirit guide me instead, right? Let the Omega, let my what's the word I'm looking for? Let my intuition lead me and guide me, right? Which I believe is divinity itself. And so it's about this daily killing of who we think we are, right? This daily reminder of I'm not Matt Owens, right? I believe that we are multidimensional fractals of God, fractals of the divine that are interconnected with literally everything within the universe. That we are all one, right? That we are literally the spark of God, that we are literally divinity itself living within this human form, right? That I am divinity itself living through this character, Matt Owens, right? This avatar, as the Hindus would say. And so then it becomes even more absurd. Part of this daily dying, this daily reminding myself of what I think I know and don't know, is reminding myself that those people, the bad guys, the other people that I don't like or that I disagree with, that they are also me. Not Matt Owens, but what lies underneath this Matt Owens skin suit that I'm wearing, right? Very Hannibal Lecter. I didn't mean it to take that route, but here we are. Very Buffalo Bill, guys. That divinity is also playing those other characters. Divinity is also playing the character of the guy that just cut me off in traffic. Divinity is playing the role of Hitler or these political characters that I think I don't like, right? God is also playing these other characters. I am also playing the other characters of the people in my family that are upsetting to me, right? Because when I judge these other people, when I hate these other people, when I get angry at these other people, I'm essentially judging and hating and getting angry at myself. right? And humans are so good at judging ourselves, right? Matt Owens is real good at judging himself, judging his actions, judging his behaviors, judging, his addictions and what he's doing and not doing. And he gets real wrapped up in that stuff, right? But the divinity that I truly am doesn't judge any of it, doesn't judge anything within or without, right? Because the truth is that God is the Republican, God is the Democrat, God is the billionaire, God is the philanthropist, and God is also the rapist and the murderers. God is all of those things. And God doesn't judge any of those things, despite what it says in the Bible. I don't believe in a judgmental, vengeful, angry God. That's not the God that I worship. That's not the God that I am. And so while we're in this reality, this 3D realm, the human so often wants to escape, right? We often talk so much about trying to escape from the matrix. We're trapped here, right? But if that's what we believe, then you are trapped, if that's what you believe. I believe I'm already free, right? But it's so easy to get wrapped back up into that, roped back into the matrix, right? Because the human doesn't want to experience the suffering and the pain and the depression and the sadness and the loneliness, all of those things. And so oftentimes the human will try to escape from those things, whether it's through drugs or alcohol or social media or work or whatever the outlet happens to be, just to sort of detach from it, to escape from it, to bury our heads, right? Matt Owens tries to escape all the time. Poor guy. I'm not going to let that happen anymore. Sorry, buddy. Sorry, buddy. No more drugs and alcohol. They're all an escape because who I am wants to experience all of that uncomfortability, right? I want to experience all that juicy, juicy uncomfortability. Sorry to tell you, Matt Owens. At the end of the day, I feel like this whole matrix just means womb, by the way. We're in a womb situation. And I feel like we're in a womb because we're not ready for the real world yet. That's why we're here. And when I say real world, what does that even mean? Right? I talk about how the matrix is like a dream, right? The dreams that you have at night, would you consider those real? Right? Well, they kind of exist because I had the dream, but really it's all just in my mind. It's not like it's something external. It's not something outside of me, right? It's a part of me, my mind. So did it really happen? Well, kind of, but also like not really, right? Like at the time in my dream, it seems real, right? When those wolves are chasing me, it seems pretty real, right? But then when I wake up from that dream, I'm like, oh, now I'm back into reality. And I think that's what's happening is right now we're meant to be in this matrix, in this womb. And when our physical body dies, when Matt Owens dies, we quote unquote wake up. And we are in the real world, in the other realm, whatever that may be. Heaven, fifth dimension, new earth, another universe, whatever you want to call it, right? But I feel like what we're in right now is practice mode. I feel like we're in demo mode, right? I feel like this womb, this matrix, this 3D realm that we are currently in is meant to prepare us for the next level, right? It's just a practice round. And so I think oftentimes we take this way too seriously. Oftentimes when people have an out-of-body experience or they travel to the other side for various reasons, they often come back and say that the angels or Jesus or whoever they spoke to, the elves, I don't know, the machine elves, they often tell us that we're taking this way too seriously. Like, just relax a little bit, buddy, right? And I think that I've learned, and I try to practice daily, to remember that, to not take any of this too seriously, right? Like this podcast, don't take it too seriously. Oh, the lighting is bad. Oh, there's sounds around me and it's ruining the who fucking cares? Who fucking cares? Right? Oh, well, this is happening to me at work, or oh, this is happening in the government. Who fucking cares? None of it's real, quote unquote real, at the end of the day, right? So what I've decided is that I can either choose to let these things bother me, annoy me, scare me, or I can try to extract myself and live in the world, but not of the world, right? To realize that all of this is just a big practice round. To be like a child again, right? Are children all worked up about the government and all worked up about taxes and the price of food and the price of gas and what Putin's doing and what China's doing? And no, kids don't worry about that. They just live their lives, often blissfully, right? And Jesus often talked about just being more childlike. And so that's part of what this, it's bringing me to tears. Part of what this dying daily is dying daily to the idea that any of this really matters in a way that I think that it matters, right? The way that I've been programmed to believe that it matters. It's about practicing letting go of control. Stop trying to control the things that I can't control, because 99.9% of the things that the adversary in my mind, the voice in my head is getting me all worked up about, are things that I can't control. Things that are actually haven't happened in the future yet, can't control that. Things in the past that have already happened, can't control that, right? I don't literally have a lion or a tiger chasing me at the moment, so I don't actually have anything to be fearful about in this now moment. And so all of these things that cause me stress and anxiety and worry, I have to practice daily, hourly, sometimes minute by minute, depending on how hairy it's getting, practicing letting go of that control, right? The Eastern philosophies talk a lot about just letting go of control, right? The Chinese and the Taoist philosophies of the Wu Wei. The Wu Wei is just going with the flow, right? It's so difficult for us humans to go with the frickin' flow because we want to try to control everything. It's so hard to let go of that control and say, well, I'm just going to let the universe take me where it takes me. Let the cosmic river, right, lead me where I need to go. Instead, Matt Owens gets involved. Matt Owens starts going, hold on a minute here. Hold on, what's going on here? There's some stuff here that's scary. I'm going to start taking control of stuff. And then it turns into a fucking hot mess again. Right? So I've been practicing and getting quite good at it, to be honest with you, to toot my own horn a little bit. Matt Owens wants to toot his own horn, guys. Matt Owens wants to toot his own horn, but let's just let him do it for a minute. Give him a gold star, guys. Matt Owens, I've been practicing letting go. Right? What does it look like to actually give 100% complete faith and trust in God, to give complete control, to actually give Jesus the wheel, as it were? What does that actually look like? Right? And I realized my whole life that I hadn't been doing that. Matt Owens had been trying to control shit the whole time. Once in a while, when it got a little too scary, I'd get down on my knees and say a little prayer and say, okay, big guy, I need your help here because Matt Owens can't handle this task. So help me out. And then whenever you help me out, I'm gonna take that wheel again. But I've been practicing just kicking back, trying not to white knuckle it, and let God take the dang wheel. And a lot of that is acceptance, of just accepting what my current situation is, accepting what is happening currently in my life, whether that's in my family or the government or, whatever situation. I'm learning to just accept it for what it is, right? And it's not easy. It's a practice. But once I've gotten better at it, my life just gets simpler, right? I'm less stressed and worried all the time because God has shown me over and over and over and over and over and over and over again that it always fucking works out. And so I had to see it for myself, and I have, especially the last few years living in my car. I've definitely seen how God has taken care of me every step of the way. And all of those times when I didn't think it would work out, it did. And it's still an unfolding process. I'm still in my car, obviously, but I know that that's not forever because there are different seasons for different things in my life. And this is the season that I'm at right now. And I accept that. I didn't in the beginning. Didn't in the beginning. But the more that I learn to just accept where I'm currently at, accept that this is where God wants me, right? Matt Owens wants to be somewhere else. Matt Owens always wants to be somewhere else. Why can't I have this? Why can't I have that? Why does this have to be going on in my life? Matt Owens needs to take a break. Let's put some duct tape over that guy's mouth for a little bit and just fucking relax. So that's what I've been doing. All right, let's transition here. And I want to talk about the Watchers and the Nephilim. This whole topic came into my mind to talk about because I have a little theory, guys. I have a little theory. I'm going to explain to you what the Watchers and Nephilim are. For those of you that don't understand, we'll dive into it here. But my current theory that just sort of appeared to me this week is that the Watchers from the Bible are actually, drumroll please, the gray aliens. And this all kind of came to my mind and started taking form because there are more congressional UAP hearings happening this week, which aren't leading to anything, of course. But, we talk about disclosure, and I'll talk about that a little bit as well. But my current theory, my current belief is I always like to take all the puzzle pieces in this crazy world, and I try to put the pieces together. I try to form some sort of a picture to sort of get a grasp as to sort of what's might be happening in this crazy world that isn't actually real. And so I think they're great aliens. Let's dive into it. In the Bible, they talk about the Watchers, right? In Genesis and Numbers and Daniel. For those of you interested, you can Google it. They talk about these beings that are called the Watchers that are meant to watch over and protect humanity. They're also talked about in great detail in the book of Enoch, which is one of those pesky little books that was, left out of the Bible. There's a bunch of them that didn't make it, that didn't get the final cut. And Enoch is one of them. Now, there's another Bible, the Ethiopians have included this in their Bibles. So it's like some Bibles include it, some Bibles don't, but we're gonna dive into it because the book of Enoch, this ancient Jewish text, is really the main source material for these mysterious beings known as Watchers and the Nephilim. So here's the deal. These divine beings known as the Watchers were posted here by God to watch after humanity. Okay. Now, eventually what happened is the Watchers started getting the hots for human females and wanted to start procreating with these human females, and things got a little hot and heavy between the Watchers and the human ladies. And they had these abominations that were born known as the Nephilim. Okay. Now, the Bible portrays the Nephilim as these mighty heroes, okay, that are these great sons of God. But the book of Enoch has a different take on it. The book of Enoch calls these Nephilim basically evil monsters. They call them giants, right? Now, I always like to look at the etymology of these words. So Nephilim in the ancient Hebrew literally translates to fallen ones, okay? Later on, the Greeks translated these Hebrew books, and the Greeks translated the word Nephilim to mean giants, or it could also be translated in Greek as earthborn, okay? So generally, most people, when they talk about Nephilim, call them giants, and it's because of this Greek translation. But really, the original word means fallen ones. Same thing with the Watchers. These Watchers were supposed to protect us and look after us. And once they made that fatal error of mating with the humans, God got real pissed off about that. So that was a bad move on the part of the Watchers. And so oftentimes nowadays when people talk about the Watchers, they often think about them as fallen angels in the same way that Lucifer is described as a fallen angel. But nowhere in the Bible, nowhere in these sacred texts are the Watchers ever described as angels, let alone fallen angels. But they kind of lump it all together with the Nephilim, which, like I've said, means fallen ones. And so they kind of just call these Watchers fallen angels as well. but it's this idea that they've fallen from grace, that they have decided to go against God's will and do whatever the hell they want and start mating with all the women willy-nilly. And that really pissed God off. So they had these Nephilim children, right? These half divine, half human hybrid monstrosities. The book of Enoch does actually call them giants, even though the word doesn't actually translate to giant. They're described as being quite tall. They were described as, I did the translation of the ancient measuring system, and it turns out that they were about 4,500 feet tall, according to Enoch, the scripture of Enoch. I don't know what 4,500 feet looks like, so I Googled it, and it turns out that the tallest building in the world, the Burj Khalifa currently, is about half that size, is about 2,000 something feet tall. And so, if you want to take it literally from the book of Enoch, it literally says that these giants were twice as tall as the Burj Khalifa, tallest building in the world. So I don't know if that's meant to be taken literally or symbolically, but apparently they were quite grande. So what happened was, not only did the Watchers go against God's will by getting it on with the humans, but there's also this idea that the Watchers gave human beings secret knowledge that they weren't supposed to have. Specifically, it talks about giving humans knowledge of metallurgy and writing and astrology and weapon making and dark magic and sorcery. And that just upset God further, right? God's already riled up about the whole getting it on with the humans thing, and now they dare to tell these humans all of this forbidden knowledge, right? And it's this common theme. It's not just in the book of Enoch that this theme of giving humans forbidden knowledge, but this idea is pervasive across the whole world in many of these ancient texts and ancient scriptures. Like the ancient Mesopotamian texts talk about this, and in the book of Genesis, you have the idea of the Garden of Eden and the snake coming in symbolically with the apple, and this idea of forbidden knowledge, eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And there's this theme that there's this knowledge that humanity and humans are not meant to have. And there's always this trickster figure, whether it's the devil or the snake or Enki or the Watchers, right? It doesn't matter what label or name you put on it. There's this idea of this knowledge given to humanity that we're not meant to have, and it corrupts humanity and sort of poisons humanity in a way that God hadn't intended. So God's so pissed off at everybody, at the Watchers, at the whole situation, right? It's turned into a big boiling hot mess, and he's not happy with it. And so what God decides to do is send down some of his best archangels, right? Archangel Michael and a whole team of archangels. And what they do is they bound up the Watchers for their transgressions and all that they've done. And the book of Enoch and the Bible talk about how the Watchers are bound up and put underground for 70 generations. And after that 70 generations, there will be a judgment, and then they will be thrown into the fiery lake. Okay? And so it talks about how the Watchers were begging God to change his mind, and hey, we're so sorry, please have mercy on us. And God was like, no way, Jose. Sorry about that. Sorry, guys, you fucked up. And I'm not changing my mind on this. So anyway, he bounds them up and throws these Watchers underground for 70 generations, whatever that means. I don't know if it's literal or metaphorical, right? And then, and now there's still all of these Nephilim giants, hybrids roaming around the earth. And God wants to destroy all of them and hit the big reset button. And so that's where the cataclysm comes. That's where the flood comes. The great flood that's not only in the Bible, but also pervasive in like every origin story across the planet and all societies. Like it's sort of, they all have this story of a great flood. So it talks about how the great flood wiped out all of the Nephilim giants, all of these evil, disgusting hybrids. And then the book of Enoch talks about how once their physical forms were dead, now their evil spirits, these Nephilim's evil spirits, were roaming around the earth, right? And I find that interesting that there's these evil spirits that are Nephilim, and it talks about how they are forever going to have earthly cravings that they can't ever satisfy because now they're out of their physical form. And so you have these evil Nephilim spirits roaming around the earth that are craving physical things like food, sex, gambling, whatever. And I sort of started thinking about my own addictions and people's addictions on earth, and how, I, like with sugar or weed or alcohol, how I just can't stop, right? How I just have one cup of coffee, then two, then three, then it's just like this insatiable, I gotta go, have more. And it's this severe imbalance. And I wonder if it's perhaps a literal, what's the word I'm looking for here? A literal possession by these Nephilim beings that aren't able to satisfy their physical cravings themselves, and so they have to inhabit humans such as myself in order to satisfy their cravings for alcohol or weed or sugar, or in other people, heroin or gambling or sex or porn or any of these other addictions, right? I just sort of wonder if it's a literal possession by these evil spirits that are causing us to have these addictive traits, right? Just something to think about. So anyways, there was a great flood that sort of wiped everything out and hit the big reset button. And for those of you that don't know, there's actually a lot of scientific evidence that's pointing to a literal flood that actually happened. There's the Younger Dryas theory that's often talked about online and podcasts. If you're interested, check it out. That there was a literal flood that there's evidence pointing to a literal flood that happened about 12,000 years ago. That perhaps wiped everything out, right? And there's actual evidence pointing to Noah's Ark being found in Turkey on Mount Ararat. So there is evidence that there was an actual flood that happened, and that some of these stories from the Bible, and it's not just from the Bible, but stories from all across the world that are sort of pointing to this great cataclysm that happened. Now, in many of these stories and quote unquote myths about the flood story, there's this theme amongst almost all of them where after the flood, there's some sort of divine being that either comes from the sky or comes from the ocean, depending on which story you're listening to, that teaches humanity, that restarts humanity and teaches them things like agriculture and metallurgy and astrology and writing and all of these things to sort of restart civilization, right? But then, and I always thought that was a good thing. Like, oh, that's how civilization started. We have to thank these gods that came and helped us out and gave us all of this knowledge about how to, how to learn about the stars and math and science and agriculture and all this stuff. Like we view that as a good thing. But I'm starting to think now that that sun is really, just let it go. Let it go, Matt Owens. Let it go. The lighting's terrible. It looks like I'm on fire. Maybe it's meant to be that way. But I'm starting to realize that this may be against God's plan, right? For us to have this knowledge of agriculture and stuff. And it harkens back to the story that I'm talking about now, where the Watchers gave us this information. And it's generally viewed as a bad thing, according to God, right? So then I started thinking about how they're supposed to be bound for, the Watchers are supposed to be bound for 70 generations underground, right? And so the way that I correlate this to the gray aliens is many people believe that the gray aliens live underground, right? The Hopi people, and I believe the Navajo people in southwestern America, believe that they're what they call ant people. These people that, when described, sound a lot like the gray aliens with the big gray heads and the big eyes and the slits for a mouth and the two little holes for a nose. When they describe the ant people living underground, they're describing gray aliens, which I think may be the Watchers, right? So these watchers have been underground for 70 generations this whole time. And the Hopi people and the people in the Southwestern America, the natives, believe that these ant people or gray aliens or watchers have helped humanity through several cataclysms in the past. According to their belief system, these gray aliens or watchers or ant people have helped the humans and bringing them down underground to protect them during several of the cataclysms that have happened on this planet over the last 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 years or whatever, however far back it goes. So they have these stories of these beings that have helped out humanity, which sounds a lot like the Watchers, and what their original job was supposed to be is to watch after and protect and help humanity. And it sounds exactly like what these ant people are doing and exactly what these gray aliens are doing. So then I start thinking about how the gray aliens are abducting humans from all of the thousands and thousands of stories that people have of abductions, and how oftentimes there's this theme of the gray aliens having something to do with reproduction and sex and genetic manipulation and hybridization programs and cloning, and if you want to get really crazy. But there's this idea that the gray aliens are using us for our DNA, that they're using us in order to hybridize themselves, some sort of an alien human hybrid type of a situation. And so then I put this in conjunction with what we're talking about with the Watchers and how God got upset that these Watchers or gray aliens were having sex with the humans. And then I wonder if perhaps they're not actually literally having sex with us, but they're actually manipulating our DNA genetically, or, having these test tube babies or whatever's going on up there on their ships or going on underground. And perhaps the ancient humans didn't have a way to explain this or put it into words because they don't know about, in vitro fertilization or any of these scientific terms or cloning or anything along those lines. But I wonder if the gray aliens or the Watchers are back up to their old hijinks, right? And I find it very interesting that they lived underground for 70 generations, and then after that, supposedly they were supposed to come out. And I wonder if perhaps they've escaped again, because up until the 20th century, humanity didn't really advance that much, if we're being real. Like, there were a couple of advances here and there that pushed us in this direction or that direction, the railroad or the cotton gin or, learning about sanitation and just stuff like that. But all in all, humanity remained the same for hundreds of thousands of years, essentially. And then in the 20th century, we sort of hit this, the switch got turned on and our technology started exponentially going through the roof. And, we started getting introduced to electricity and the internet and social media and now AI. And it's just sort of on this trajectory that is a little scary, to be honest with you, right? I don't live in fear about these technologies, but I don't think it's what God intended. And so part of me wonders if the 70 generations underground, that time has expired. And in the 20th century is when we start seeing an explosion of these UFOs, UAPs, right, with Roswell and, all of the stuff around Area 51 starts happening, and then nuclear technology. And there's all these stories nowadays of a lot of this alien gray activity, UFO activity around nuclear sites and military installations. And what I think happened, my current theory, is that these gray aliens, these Watchers, these ant people, have re-emerged in the 20th century and have started sharing this forbidden knowledge of technology with the humans again. And what I think is happening, what I think is a part of disclosure, is that the government is in league with these beings. And I think that they know that they're maybe not great, right? The Christians would call them demons, right? I remember initially I heard one of my Christian friends say that aliens were demons. And in my mind, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, that's absurd, right? Because in my mind, oftentimes, many Christians that I've spoken to tend to just lump everything they don't understand. It's all of the devil. It's all demonic, right? And it's like, it's not all demonic. Like, it's not like break it. I just get frustrated by that. But once I started looking into some of these things, as I have, which is what we're talking about, I'm starting to realize that actually they might be demons. These gray aliens might not have our best interest in heart, right? Like, you can view, it depends on your perspective, like I always talk about, right? Like, you can view these things, like these technological advances, as helping humanity, but I've always taken the stance that social media and the internet and even electricity are not great for us, right? They're disconnecting us from the cosmos, right? With light pollution, and we don't connect with nature in a way that we have for our entire existence. And so I generally view technology as not great for humanity. And I think that God sees it the same way. So I think what's happening, my current theory, and that's always shifting, right? It's not set in stone. My current theory is that the government is in league with these beings, whether you call them watchers or gray aliens or ant people or whatever. I think they're in league with these things. And I think that these things have given our governments technology and given several corporations and industries access to this technology, whether it's the military industrial complex, whether it's big tech, perhaps even big pharma with medical advances and addiction to these substances. And, I have opinions about big pharma. We won't get into that, but I definitely think that these craft that we see, these UFOs, I believe that it's a mixture of these gray aliens crafts, these ancient beings crafts. I also think that the U.S. has developed that technology because the Greys or the Watchers have given them this technology, and I think other governments like the Russians or the Chinese or whatever also have this technology. I think that there's anti-grav technology that's been around since the 50s, and I think that it's been kept top secret. I don't quite understand why we haven't seen it used in a war situation. Like, why aren't there UFOs being used in wars if we have this technology? So then I start to question, like, I do believe we have this technology, or at least access to it from these retrieval programs or whatever, or aerospace has developed it or whatever. But I wonder if it's not being used in wars. I wonder if it's being used to actually travel to other planets, or to explore the galaxy, or to travel interdimensionally, which I think that these ships have the capability of traveling interdimensionally. I also think that these ships perhaps have the technology to travel through time in a way that we don't completely understand. I think this is all plausible, and I think this is all perhaps actually happening, right? And it's not all set in stone. I'm not dying on this hill of like, no, this is exactly what's happening, but just theories that I'm kicking around, right? Based on all of the information and all of the evidence and all of the stories and all of the things that I've dove into, right? So I think that part of the reason why the government doesn't want to disclose this is because there's a lot of people that I think are going to be upset that we're in league with these beings, right? A lot of religious folk are going to be upset that our government is perhaps in league with these things that many people think are demons. But I also think that based on what's happened in the past, based on the ancient scriptures, that a reset is coming. Now, God promised us in the Bible that there's not going to be another flood, but I do believe there is going to be sort of either a solar situation where a solar event sort of cripples all of our technology that we're not meant to have. An X level solar flare has hit the Earth before. There's the Carrington event. So if you're interested in that, check out the Carrington event, where an X level flare hit the Earth in the 1800s and fried all of the telegraph systems, etc. And I think that God has another one of those waiting for us. And I think that another X level solar event is going to happen relatively soon. and is going to stop the advent of AI and stop the advent of our technological advances and stop what the Watchers or the gray aliens stop this technology that they've given us, because we're not meant to have it. And ultimately, um, it's for our own good, right? I feel like we're not meant to have it. Not like, oh, come on, God, I want social media, I want my Instagram. But I think that it's for our greater good, for the advancement of our souls, which is what we're ultimately here for, right? So I think we're getting there. I think that whether it's a solar flare event or perhaps a nuclear event, there's these EMPs that can be exploded over a region or a country that can completely disable the entire electrical grid, theoretically for years, because our power grid, at least here in the United States, is not that strong. It's not that strong. So what that would mean is a collapse of everything. I don't mean to scare you, but these are the things I'm looking into. Not just the collapse of society, but a reset back to where we're meant to be. An entire collapse of our electrical grid for months to years, which is likely. Our entire economic system would crash. Our banking system would be deleted. All of our money is digital. It just exists on computers. And if those computers crash, we have no money. But I think that's ultimately for the greater good. I think we're meant to go back to a simpler time. I don't think we're meant as humans to be inundated with this fire hose of information nonstop, knowing what's going on globally with the news and social media and what's happening over there and what's happening over here. And it just freaks us out. And I don't think we're meant to have that. Our nervous systems are a wreck, right? The food system is a wreck, right? With all of the chemicals and pollution and plastics. And I think we're due for a reset. And like I talked about earlier, human beings often don't want to experience pain and suffering and going through the fire. But I think that humanity is about to go through a fire, about to go through a cleansing, and about to go through a purification process. And I know this because history repeats itself. And this, as the ancients have told us, this has happened before, and I believe it's going to happen again. And I think that we're on a precipice of something happening real soon. So I believe that I'm protected. I believe that you're protected. I believe that God is looking out for us. I don't think we're meant to go into it fearfully or go into it with worry or anxiety, but knowing that whatever happens is ultimately for our greater good and that everything always works out. So thank you for listening. I'm really enjoying these conversations. I'm enjoying whatever I happen to create for the podcast, whether it's a Sunday service, whether it's a prayer, whether it's a poem, whatever comes, and I'm really enjoying that. So if you're enjoying these as well, I appreciate your support. You can support the podcast. You can support me by sharing these podcasts with a fellow misfit. You can do that on social media. You can follow me on YouTube, follow me on Spotify, follow me on Instagram. I appreciate that. All the follows and the shares are ways you can support me. You can also support me financially if you feel so led to. No pressure. Matt Owens 111 on Venmo and the Cash app. I appreciate everybody who's donated. I'm having fun with these things, guys. I'm having fun trying new stuff. I'm having fun seeing where this thing is going and where the Omega is leading me. And so until next time, love you.